Before names, before memory, before the idea of history itself, the earth breathed slowly beneath a pale sky. Wind moved across frozen plains like a whisper afraid to speak too loudly. Snow did not fall gently, here it settled, layer by layer, century after century, pressing the world into stillness. In that ancient morning, the sun rose weakly, its light dull and distant, as if even it struggled to survive the cold. Somewhere beneath that frozen horizon, a life was moving. It was not thinking of death, it was thinking of hunger. The animal stepped carefully, each breath fogging the air around its face. Thick fur covered its body, grown not for comfort but for survival. Every muscle knew the rhythm of this land, a crunch of ice beneath heavy steps, the ache of cold that never truly left. Its eyes scanned the endless white for movement, for danger, for food. This creature had lived here all its life. Its mother had lived here, and so had generations before that, stretching back further than the mind could ever imagine. Cold was not an enemy. Cold was simply life. But something was wrong. The ground beneath its feet felt different, soft where it should have been hard, unstable where it had always been solid. The air smelled strange, sharp and metallic, as if the earth itself was changing its breath. The animal hesitated. That hesitation would be the last choice it ever made. The ground gave way without warning, not slowly, not gently. In an instant, the world collapsed beneath it. Mud, water, and freezing sludge swallowed its legs, dragging it down with terrifying speed. It struggled, powerful muscles fighting with everything they had. The surface cracked and shifted, ice breaking like glass around its body. The cold intensified. Not the cold it knew. This was different. This was sudden, violent, absolute. The temperature dropped so fast that breath turned to ice in its lungs. Panic surged raw, instinctive, wordless. Its heart pounded, blood racing through veins that would soon be frozen solid. Muscles locked as the cold seized them, stealing movement second by second. The animal screamed. No one heard it. Within minutes, maybe less, life stopped. Not with decay, not with rot, but with interruption. The body remained exactly where it fell, fur untouched, skin intact, eyes dull but present. Even the last expression of fear lingered, frozen into muscle and bone. Snow fell, ice sealed the surface. Time moved on. Thousands of years passed without a sound. Civilizations would rise and fall far away. Oceans would shift, mountains would crumble. But here, beneath layers of ice and earth, the animal waited, not decomposing, not disappearing, simply paused, perfectly preserved, as if it had died yesterday. When modern humans would one day uncover bodies like this, they would struggle to understand what they were seeing. These were not fossils. Fossils are stories told in stone. These were bodies, real flesh, real fur, real teeth still clenched in their final moment. Roadkill from another world. The shock of that realization would ripple through science and imagination alike. Because death is expected to erase, time is supposed to soften edges, blur faces, reduce life to dust. But here, time had done the opposite. It had kept the memory sharp. This was not preservation born of peace. It was preservation born of violence, of sudden cold, of earth turning traitor beneath living feet. And this animal was not alone. Hidden beneath frozen tundra, peat bogs, and ancient ice fields were countless others. Mothers, young, hunters, survivors who did not survive, each one frozen in the middle of life, each one waiting. The earth, it seemed, had not buried its past. It had stored it, and now, as the planet slowly warmed and the ice began to loosen its grip, those long silent witnesses were beginning to return to the light. Their message would not come in words, it would come in flesh. The world that ended them did not announce itself with warning. It did not arrive slowly, politely, or with mercy. It was already there, vast, patient, and watching. Long before that final step onto unstable ground, long before panic burned through frozen lungs, the earth had been changing in quiet, terrifying ways. The Ice Age was not a single moment in time. It was a living system, breathing cold into every corner of the planet, shaping life with an unforgiving hand. This was a world ruled by extremes. Winters that seemed endless, summers so brief they felt like mistakes, storms that arrived without pattern, tearing across plains with winds sharp enough to cut skin. The sky often hung low and heavy, grey pressing down on the land as if the world itself was shrinking. Yet life endured. Across the frozen plains moved giant woolly mammoths with curved tusks scraping frost from buried grass. Cave lions stalking in silence, their breath steaming in the air. Woolly rhinoceroses charging through snow with unstoppable force. Smaller creatures followed ancient paths, knowing where the ground was safe, where the ice held firm, where water flowed beneath deceptive crusts. They lived by memory, passed through instinct. but instinct could not save them from what the earth was becoming. The climate did not simply cool, it fractured. Temperatures swung violently, sometimes changing within hours. Ground that had been frozen solid for thousands of years suddenly softened, releasing trapped water and gas. Beneath the surface, ancient methane pockets expanded, turning stable plains into death traps disguised as familiarity. An animal could walk the same route it had taken 100 times before and find betrayal waiting beneath its feet. Mud traps formed without sound. Icy floods surged across valleys. Sudden freezes followed brief thaws, locking everything in place before life could escape. Death came not as a chase, not as a predator, but as an environment collapsing inward. For many, there was no fight at all. One moment they were moving, the next, they were held. Muscles tensed, hearts raced. Blood rushed faster, carrying warmth that vanished in seconds. The cold was no longer something to endure, it was something that invaded. It slipped into tissue, hardened fluids, arrested movement with ruthless efficiency. This is why they were preserved. Not because the earth wanted to keep them, but because it killed them too quickly to let nature finish its work. Scavengers never came. Bacteria never bloomed. Decay never began. The cold locked every process in suspension, sealing life the way glass seals fireflies. Eyes clouded but did not collapse. Skin shrank but did not rot. Fur remained soft, dense, almost touchable. Time slowed to nothing. Above them, seasons continued. Snow fell and melted. Ice thickened and cracked. Sediment layered itself gently, year after year, pressing the bodies deeper into the earth's memory. The land forgot them, or so it seemed. Because while the surface changed, the cold below held steady. Permafrost became a vault, sealing not just bones, but moments, fear, motion. The last direction their bodies tried to move. Some died standing, some curled in panic, some lay stretched as if sleeping. In rare cases, even their final meal remained inside them, grass still green in frozen stomachs, flowers eaten just hours before death, preserved so perfectly that modern scientists would one day identify the season they died. Spring, summer, autumn, not winter. That realization would disturb those who studied them. These animals were not wiped out slowly by endless cold. Many died during moments of warmth, during times of growth, movement, and life. The danger was not constant freeze, but instability, a world shifting faster than life could adapt. The earth did not roar when it changed, it whispered, and those whispers were deadly. As centuries piled upon centuries, these frozen bodies became part of the planet itself. Ice pressed against fur, minerals kissed skin, darkness erased all sense of time. What had once been terror faded into stillness. Silence so complete it felt eternal. But nothing the earth creates is meant to stay hidden forever. The same forces that buried these animals would eventually expose them again. Ice would retreat. Rivers would carve new paths. Heat would reach places it never had before. And one day a human hand would touch ancient fur and recoil in shock. Because this was not history reduced to stone. This was death preserved in its original form. A reminder that the world we stand on has ended lives before, not out of cruelty, but indifference, and it would do so again. At least, not at first. Most of the discoveries began quietly, without ceremony or expectation. A miner cutting into frozen earth in Siberia. A hunter following the slow bend of a river as summer heat softened the banks. A construction crew breaking ground where ice had ruled for thousands of years. Ordinary work, ordinary days until the ground revealed something it was never meant to give back. At first it looked unreal, a dark shape pressed into melting soil. Fur emerging where there should have been only mud and stone. Skin, not bone. Texture, not dust. The kind of sight that makes the mind hesitate, searching for a modern explanation. An animal, intact, perfectly wrong. Some thought it was a trick of light, others believed it must be recent, a reindeer, a dog, something unfortunate and newly dead. But then they touched it. The fur came away clean and dry beneath their fingers. The smell was not decay, but earth and cold. Teeth were sharp, hooves unbroken, even the shape of muscle remained, frozen into position as if the body might move again if disturbed too much. Panic followed wonder, because no one expects the past to feel warm to the touch. Word spread quickly. Scientists arrived. Cameras followed. The ground was carefully cleared, inch by inch. Revealing bodies so well preserved, they forced everyone present to lower their voices, as if standing in a grave that could hear them. Some animals emerged whole, others surfaced in pieces, heads first, legs later, torsos trapped deeper below. Each reveal felt invasive, like opening a door that had been closed for tens of thousands of years. When the bodies were lifted from the earth, time seemed to bend around them. Sunlight touched skin that had never known it. Air brushed fur that had last felt wind during the Ice Age. Water dripped from melting ice like tears. Many of those present described the same feeling. Not excitement, not triumph, but reverence. Because these were not specimens, they were individuals. In laboratories far from the frozen plains, the process continued slowly, respectfully. Thawing was done with caution, sometimes taking weeks. Temperature controlled, humidity monitored. Every step measured against the fear of destroying something irreplaceable. As the ice loosened its grip, details emerged that no fossil could ever provide. Eyeballs collapsed but recognizable. Lips pulled back to reveal teeth clenched in final tension. Tongues caught between jaws, in some cases, blood vessels still visible beneath skin. Inside, even more stories waited. Stomachs held the last meal grasses, leaves, flowers frozen mid-digestion. Lungs told of desperate breaths. Bones showed fractures from falls, evidence of panic, of impact, of struggle. These animals had not simply died, they had experienced their deaths. And now, across time, humans were witnessing them. The emotional weight was impossible to ignore. Researchers who had spent careers studying extinction in textbooks found themselves struggling to speak. Some admitted to stepping away, overwhelmed by the intimacy of it all. One scientist described the experience as standing beside someone who has been waiting for you longer than humanity has existed. There was a question that hovered in every room. Should they have been left alone? The world had preserved these bodies perfectly, but not gently. To uncover them felt like interruption layered on top of interruption. A second disturbance, delivered by a species that had not existed when the animals last breathed. Yet knowledge demanded observation. From these bodies came revelations no theory had predicted. The health of ancient animals, evidence of disease, signs of nutritional stress or abundance, even proof that some species died suddenly while thriving, not fading slowly into extinction. The story of the Ice Age began to change. Extinction was no longer a vague concept. It became personal, immediate, real. And as ice continued to retreat across the planet, more bodies emerged. A mammoth calf with its trunk curled as if seeking comfort, a horse frozen mid-stride, a predator whose final hunt ended in mud and cold instead of blood. Each discovery echoed the same unsettling truth. The Earth remembers everything. What it takes, it may one day return. And with each thawed body, the distance between past and present shrank. Time no longer felt like a barrier. It felt like a thin veil, easily lifted, revealing how fragile life has always been. Standing in sterile rooms under artificial light, humans faced ancient eyes that had once watched a different sky. And in those frozen gazes there was no accusation, only silence. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. For tens of thousands of years, it held its silence perfectly. It guarded bodies, moments, and unfinished lives without complaint or urgency. But now, the ground softens earlier each year. Rivers cut deeper than they once did. Summers linger. Winters hesitate, and the frozen dead begin to rise. They appear at riverbanks where water eats away ancient soil. They surface from collapsing cliffs of permafrost. Sometimes they are found by scientists, sometimes by children walking near melting ground, sometimes by animals, confused by a scent that should not exist. Each discovery feels less like chance and more like inevitability. The Earth is changing again, not slowly, not gently, just as it did before. Scientists speak carefully when they describe what is happening. Charts, data, measurements, these are safer than emotion, but beneath the controlled language is a truth that feels disturbingly familiar. The same instability that trapped prehistoric animals is returning in a new form. Not ice advancing, but ice retreating. Not cold sealing the world, but warmth unlocking what was once safely buried. The past is thawing, and it is not coming back quietly. With each preserved body comes a reminder that extinction is not always dramatic. It does not always announce itself with fire or collapse. Sometimes it arrives through small changes that add up to catastrophe. A slightly warmer season, a ground that no longer holds, a balance that shifts just enough to erase what once thrived. The animals frozen beneath the ice did not know they were living at the edge of an ending. They did not understand climate. They did not predict collapse. They simply lived, trusting the land that had always carried them. That trust was broken. Today, humans stand where those animals once stood. We build, move, and plan with the same confidence that tomorrow will resemble today, that the ground beneath us will behave, that the systems we rely on will remain stable. History suggests otherwise. The frozen bodies do not accuse us. They do not warn with words. They simply exist, proof that the world can change faster than life can adapt. Proof that preservation does not mean protection. Proof that survival is never guaranteed. No matter how well adapted a species may seem, there is a quiet tragedy in how perfectly these animals were saved. They survived time, but not their world. As scientists finish their work, many of the bodies are returned to the earth or stored carefully, shielded from light and air. Some are displayed behind glass, where visitors stand in silence, staring at fur and flesh that feels impossibly real. Children ask questions, adults struggle to answer. Why did they die? Could it happen again? Will we be found like this someday? The questions linger long after the exhibits are left behind. In the end, the frozen animals offer something rare in history, not a story of heroes or villains, not a tale of conquest or progress, but a moment of stillness, a pause that invites reflection. They ask us to remember that the earth is older than us, stronger than us, and indifferent to whether we endure. Yet within that indifference lies opportunity, to listen, to learn, to respect the fragile balance that allows life to continue. The animals did not choose to become messengers. They did not know their deaths would echo across millennia. But here they are, returning to the surface as the ice loosens its grip, asking nothing, offering everything, a glimpse of the past, a mirror for the present, a question for the future. As the final light fades and the world settles into night, their story does not end in fear, it ends in awareness, in the quiet understanding that remembering is an act of care. If these ancient lives moved you, if their silence spoke louder than words, then carry their story forward, share it, preserve it. Let their brief return to the light mean something, because once the ice releases its hold completely, there will be no forgetting what was revealed, only what we choose to do with it. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.